Hi, and welcome back to the music room here at Coleridge Road. I'm Paul Mulvaney, of course, and PG Mulvaney, as I'm known colloquially. I've set up the XF 400 behind us here, the Clare camera, which we are streaming into OBS, but not live streaming to the web. We are using a different camera today to just record a Zoom meeting here, so that I can send everybody the video of that. And essentially, we're going to walk through the notes that I've sent you along with this video URL so that we can learn how to use OBS. OBS is very complex software. We're not doing too much with it. The first thing I need you to do before you start OBS is to plug the blue cable. This is a red one, but it's the same sort of cable. This is an Ethernet cable, technically an RJ45, but you can see the plug here. When we go to the Lenovo, there is a slot on the side which this plugs into, but it's closed with a little spring-loaded trapdoor, and you will use this to open up the trapdoor. You will use the end of it, holding onto it, and then it will plug in that way. It's a bit of a knack, but I'll show you how when we meet one-on-one in individual instruction in how to use OBS and how to use the camera and how to set up the tripod and the lights and everything else. And we will do that on site in the dining room studio space. I'm going to go through these notes that I've sent you one feature at a time. So now you're plugged in. You've got Ethernet internet connection. That's the fastest and most secure way to connect to the web, even though it's far more convenient these days to be able to walk around with a device or sit wherever you need to with a device and use Wi-Fi. That is the old-fashioned way, and it is both more secure and it is faster in terms of throughput. When you open up OBS, and I'll get off the screen here and show you OBS. I don't have OBS open just yet. Let me start up OBS. Let's see, there's OBS. There we are. Open broadcast software. There we go. And let's make sure that it's live. Yes, it's live. If it seems herky-jerky and out of sync, that's because we're essentially running two systems at once on the computer, and my computer is not really built to do that sort of thing, but that's okay. And let's see, we will share the screen. And now we're over in OBS, and you can see OBS instead of looking at me. The first thing you will see are these two screens. You have a program screen over here, and a preview screen. Yes, preview and program. That's it. Preview is on the left, program's on the right. They're marked. Preview is what's coming from the camera. Program is what's going out to YouTube. They should be pretty much identical, and there shouldn't be any lag between them. There will be a lag over on the YouTube end, but that's because of their processing. It's not a problem. The audio and the visual should be together when they leave here and when they get there and when the viewer sees them, usually. So that's all good. The first thing I want to show you is the audio mixer, and that's down here at the bottom. And it runs like any audio mixer you've ever seen in a music studio. And if you aren't familiar with that, I'll just explain to you that each one of these channels can be turned on or turned off. If it's red, it's turned off. If it's on, it's bright white. And these channels have indicators on them. We're not running sound through this right now because I didn't bring the mics home. But those indicators will flash from left to right, and the louder they get, the further they go to the right. You want to set these little sliders, which are basically volume controls, in such a way that the channel you're using to bring in your sound will not run all the way into this red zone. It's very important that you not run into the red zone because that means it's so loud it's distorting. But you want it to be as loud as possible, so you will move that as far to the right as you can. And you will turn off every other channel other than the one you are using. And that will help prevent feedbacks. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's all you need to do with that. And you will do that during a sound test before you start the performance, or if there is no sound test, you will do it on the fly during the performance. I would usually start this, at least for piano music, we found that you start about 80% of the way over and you get pretty good sound at that point. You don't mind if the sound tracks all the way over to the yellow danger area, but you just don't want it to live over in the red. Occasionally it might touch the red, but it's better if you don't. So that's the audio mixer, and that's all there is to the audio mixer for now. And that determines the sound that you're getting. Let's see. Next week we'll be talking about the YouTube end of things, but right now we're going to determine how to actually set up the stream key, because you've got audio and you've got visual. Here's your audio, here's your visual, audio and video. How do we connect it to the web? This is very, very easy. They've made it very easy, at least to get connected. You're going to go up here to Tools. You see there's a menu up here. And under Tools, you'll see it says Auto Configuration Wizard. That's good sound. When you open that up, the first page says usage information. You want to click on Optimize for streaming. Recording is secondary. The reason for that is not that we're not going to record. YouTube automatically records. And if you want, I've already shown you how to record on the camera with a little red button, but there's also a record down here. It says start recording on the controls down here in the lower right-hand side. And frankly, that records to the computer itself. And the problem with that is that, just like here, the computer's already busy. So it will slow things down if you do that. So rather than doing that, we'll just let YouTube make the recording. And if we want to make a local recording, we'll make it in camera. We're not going to use that. So we're never going to use Optimize for recording. I will not be streaming, because this is a live streaming service. So that's the first thing you connect. Second thing, this should say specify the device you want to use, and it says the base canvas resolution, the resolution that you're sending out will be 1920 by 1080. That's the maximum that YouTube can reproduce. FPS, that stands for frames per second, and it'll say either 60 or 30, but preferably 60 when possible. In point of fact, because of YouTube's limitations and because of the limitations of the system, it will choose 30. 30 is close enough to 24, and 24 is frames per second, is standard film. It goes back to the days of silent movies. Standard film presentation. It's become this more or less the standard for television broadcast anywhere in the world. That 30 frames per second is an approximation of that works well for the internet, and it works well for YouTube. So that's what this is going to automatically set to. And you can see you don't have to reset anything. You just click next. Then you're going to select for your service, YouTube. You can select other services. There's a different version of YouTube called RTMP and beta, and we're not doing that. We're not using that. You can go custom, which means create your own website. We're not going that far yet, not by a long shot. Twitch is a gaming platform. We're not worried about that. Facebook, probably a lot of you have have conducted live streams on Facebook with your phones, or you've uploaded videos to Facebook. I certainly have, and that that isn't where we're going with this. We're going to be putting this onto a page at Clare Hall, and we'll discuss how to do that next week. But the YouTube Clare Hall page was created by the staff at Clare Hall, and it's looking very good these days, and we'll work with that. Twitter and a few other platforms. We're going to just leave that at YouTube Gamer. Now the stream key you will have already put into the memory, into your keyboard memory with an automatic button that does that, so you don't even have to worry about Control X or Control C, the Windows copy commands. You will have that in your buffer, and you will simply go Control V in this window here where it says Stream Key. Now, what is a Stream Key? Stream Key is in effect a password that connects this machine to a specific URL at YouTube. The URL is for the end user. The stream key is for OBS to know where exactly at YouTube to send this stream, so that they know where it's coming from and where to link it to. And that gives you access to control at the other end. Again, we'll talk about that next week, but that's what you need. The end user doesn't need the stream key. We need the stream key, but the stream key is automatically generated by YouTube. You put it into memory, it sits in memory in the computer, and then you punch it into here. No problem. Server, you want the primary YouTube server. There's a secondary YouTube server, don't worry about it. We use the primary. Video bitrate, that's fairly important, 2,500. Okay, that's how many pieces of information it gets per second, 2,500. We prefer hardware encoding. That means we're going to allow the computer to do the hardware as opposed to estimating the bit rate and doing all of it. We're not going to worry about that. That's getting complicated engineering. We're not going to do that. Prefer hardware encoding. Let the computer do the work is what we're saying. Click next. In other words, all you had to do here was punch in that stream key using Control V. It's already in memory. So next. Final results. It tells you what the settings are, and you click Apply Settings, and you are done. That's all you need to do to connect to the internet. You're done. That's it. That's everything you need to know about OBS until and unless something goes wrong. I'm going to walk you very quickly through some things that have gone wrong in the last few months while I was streaming, much to our annoyance and much to the annoyance of our viewers and our musicians. But we quickly figured out, as quickly as we could, how to fix these things. And that's what I'm going to share with you. Other things may go wrong. We don't know how to fix those yet, but we'll learn. Most likely what will happen when you run this system is it'll run fine, but it's like an old car. You don't know. This is a system that and a technology which is being developed as we speak. That's what I alluded to in my opening remarks about OBS itself. Let's say you have no video. Okay, first question: is the lens cap down? On the camera? Because believe me, I've done that. Check your source in the lower left middle here where it says video capture device. If you click on that, you get this window comes up, and here it says device Camlink. You want it to say Camlink 4K. That's, remember, the capture card, the little gadget that goes on the end of the HDMI cable and plugs into the USB cable. I've got it right here, down here right now. It's actually over here on an extension, and there it is. Camlink is right there. Okay, make sure that you've got that selected. If you don't get video, make sure that that's selected. Otherwise, leave it alone. Also, make sure the eye icon, there's an eye icon, that's not crossed out. And that's about it. That's what's gone wrong so far. For we don't have any video on screen when we open up OBS. What if you don't have any audio? Okay, the first question is the correct channel open on the audio mixer? Is the correct channel open on the audio mixer? Are the mics powered? Remember, you have to turn on the 48-volt power on the mic. That should be a setting that you leave alone. But if somebody has accidentally brushed against that or turned it off because they were using different mics or something, for whatever reason, you need to check that. Are your earbuds working and plugged in properly? Okay. Remember that Mac buds don't really run, they won't even fit into a properly into a PC, and PC buds don't work on Macs. So you want to be using earbuds if you can. And we'll get to that in a moment. But in any case, the question is, are your earbuds working? If none of this works, make sure the laptop is set up right. You need to go to Windows settings. I described this here. That would be in Windows itself. That's the little gear-like thing. Or failing that, you can type the word settings into next to the magnifying glass there and do a search. You can search for microphone there. Select microphone privacy settings and allow apps to access your microphone. Now, you might think that refers to the microphone on the computer, and it does. But the trick is when you turn that privacy setting off and you don't allow the apps, that includes this program, OBS, to access your microphones, it shuts off the entire audio bus on the computer, and you can't get any kind of audio out of the computer at that point. So we've connected YouTube, and but YouTube can't hear you. Oh no! It says your audio rate is 0. Okay, go to the controls menu down here. Find settings. Okay, double-click settings. All right. Go to output. This one here. And make sure that audio bit rate right here is set to 128. That's what YouTube wants. Has lots of settings. If that doesn't work, select something else and then reselect 128. And that should connect you to YouTube. That's what I discovered on the fly once when we had video but no audio. And it took me a few minutes to figure that out. But after desperately trying everything else, that works. Let's say you have feedback of some sort. It's doing that kind of thing. An echo, as it were. Well, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you're not using headphones, because we got a really nice set of headphones with this kit. Unfortunately, we're not working in a control room. The microphones hear the headphones and they pick them up. So you don't want that to happen. That's why we're using earbuds, because they're quiet. Make sure that the earbuds are plugged in, or even headphones if they're silent enough, if you're running a quiet enough system. Make sure that they're plugged in, and if they're not, the speakers on the computer itself are going to start singing, and that's going to be picked up by the microphone, and it'll do that kind of thing, which is annoying. That's only happened once, and it took us 10 seconds to fix it, but that can be a problem. Let's see. Also make sure you're only running. I'm going to close this window if we can do that. Yeah. There we go. Make sure that yeah, that's a zoom control. You don't have to worry about that. Make sure that only one audio channel is open. We have discovered that if you have two audio channels, after a while they get out of sync, and what you get is sync like that. You get a little bit of echo, and that can be very annoying to the musician because they play one note and they hear two, or one note that's kind of doubled, and that's very annoying. They don't want that. We don't want that. So let's say that you're humming along and the video and the audio go out of sync. This doesn't tend to happen unless you have a very long broadcast, and this is a universal problem with OBS and live streaming in general. The audio and the video can get out of sync if you have longer than about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. We keep our broadcasts under an hour and 20 minutes. If you're broadcasting a long program, you're going to have an intermission, break it up, and start a second part. And that might require a second URL. It's going to be a little tricky to do longer broadcasts. We are essentially limited by the nature of the technology to about an hour and 20 minutes safely. Otherwise, we risk the audio and the visual getting out of sync, and it looks like a badly dubbed foreign movie. The audio might be fine and the video might be fine, but they're not together, and that's the danger. What can we do about it at our end? Well, we can limit the length of the thing. We can also, it is possible to go to the gear icon here next to the open channel, open that up, and go. If you go to the properties, sometimes you'll get this screen, and it says use device timestamps. You want to click that on and off, and then a couple of times, and leave it off, and that might help, but don't count on that. There are also, since the audio usually gets ahead of the video takes longer to process. There are deep controls on this which allow you to set about a 220 millisecond start with a lag on the audio in the hopes of getting them synced up. But you have to do that ahead of time, and you don't know when this is going to kick in, or even if it's going to kick in. If you do that ahead of time, it's more likely to drive them out of sync in the first place. We don't bother with that. So just keep your performances short. Talk to your musicians ahead of time. When you first meet them, say, hi, I'm going to be running your live stream. How long is your presentation? They say, 2.5 hours ago. That's going to be problematic. And then just explain it to them in no uncertain terms that they won't have the quality of sound that they want to have. Keep it under an hour and 20. It's too quiet. Well, if it's too quiet, YouTube sometimes, because they deal with a lot of youngsters, and they deal with a lot of loud video games and a lot of things of this nature, they have a tendency to quiet down their live streams lest some kid injure themselves listening to a war simulation game and it makes too much noise, or car theft simulation game, it makes too much noise and their hearing is damaged, and then YouTube gets sued. So they have channels that they use that quiet the sound, and there's nothing we can do about that. If that happens, just push the sound up as far as you can without distorting it. That's all you can do. It's too loud. The user can turn it down if it's too loud. That's not even a problem. So if you ever get a complaint that says this is too loud, as politely as you can, suggest that they adjust their set. It's a bit silly if it's too loud. And that's not our worry. YouTube has reframed the picture, and it's wrong. Sometimes YouTube reframes the picture, and the result is, like this drum here is just, you can only see part of it. Suddenly the musician, you had it perfect in the camera, and the musician is suddenly, oh my gosh, they're completely invisible. If that's the case, then you need to reframe in the camera, because YouTube has reframed your picture for you. Just reframe in the camera until you can see on YouTube, and I'll show you how to monitor that next week, and that's even simpler than this. Um, just that it's right. You want to get it right, not just in the camera, not just on OBS, but at YouTube itself, because that's what people are looking at. They're not looking at our camera, and they're not looking at OBS. They're looking at the end product at YouTube. To the extent that we can control that, we will. Um, I don't have any controls whatsoever. Okay, if this control panel, which after all has the start stream button on it, if that control panel is not functional, then it just isn't there. Then you come up here to view. Is it view? Yes, view docs and reset UI. UI standard for user interface, just what it looks like, and click on that, and that should bring it back up. What if you don't have an audio mixer? Oh no, well you can try the same thing. Go to view and docs and click on reset UI, and if that doesn't work, try reset audio mixer. Make sure that that's clicked as well. So that either one of those should bring up the controls or the audio mixer, respectively. Let's see. I only see one screen. I'd like to see both of these screens. I'm not even sure which screen I'm looking at. Click on here, studio mode, which is in the controls. If I click on that, you see you have only the preview screen. And I'd like to see the program screen too. Even though it's almost always the same, it at least tells me if there's some sort of lag. And if anything else goes wrong, I've included my email and probably more importantly, my cell number right there. And since things probably won't go wrong, all I can say is congratulations on live streaming some music. You can see that we are, in fact, there. I've set my metronome off, and you can see that the two screens are working in sync, more or less. And even if they're a bit herky-jerk because of the computer getting a little overwhelmed here. So we've been running OBS now for 20 minutes or so, and in fact, it's running fine, and OBS will run for quite some time. But the problem will be very simply whether or not your program is so long that the audio and the video have time to get out of sync, and so that is critical. We do a shorter program than we might necessarily do in front of a live audience, and you should have no problem whatsoever. Please read through. You don't have to memorize, but please read through and familiarize yourself with the controls of OBS. Familiarize yourself as well with the what can go wrong section at the end, just so you know about where the directions are for a given problem, and have a good time. Enjoy the music. You have the best seat in the house. So thanks very much, and goodbye.